Well, the holidays are a time for many to spend with family, but not everyone is fortunate enough to have a home or even loved ones around them. Now, this is where organizations like U-Turn actually come in. The organization helps the homeless here in South Africa in finding ways of their situation. Let's now welcome Lindley April, U-Turn Operations Manager at Gauteng, as well as Themba Mbuli, U-Turn Champion, who is a beneficiary of the program on the work readiness phase. Gentlemen, what a great pleasure to have both of you in studio with us. Good afternoon. Welcome to SA Today.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
And a Merry Christmas to you and all your viewers.
Yes, it is festive season. We're going to talk about that in a short while, Lindley. And I'm just so glad that both of you are here and are bringing such a smile, particularly, and hope to those that might not necessarily be around those that are assuring them and giving them hope. Lindley, let's talk about U-Turn. Talk to us about the organization, how it came about, and how you assist those who are homeless.
Well, U-Turn has been around for the past 27 years, providing hope for the hopeless, helping people with pathways out of homelessness. And it started by one person in Cape Town, Colleen Lewis, who was challenged when she heard an interview on radio asking, if your church had to close its doors today, would your community feel its impact? And she was bothered by that question because the answer was no one would notice if our church closed down. And a few days after this, while mulling this over in her head, two homeless people came to her door and asked for help. And she asked them, what is it that we can do for you, or that I can do for you? And they said, we just want to be clean inside and out.
Wow.
And she cleared out everything in her house that she could give away, of her family's toiletries, of their clothes, everything she could, and she gave it to them. And the next week, these two people came back again, but this time with 20 others.
Oh, wow.
And that's where U-Turn Homeless Ministry started. And it became such an issue for the community that they were scared of the influx of homeless people coming into the street and into the community. And it then moved to Bible Church, where U-Turn really found its home, and it started there, and it has just grown over the past 27 years to become a national organization.
Great initiative indeed. So we are forever grateful to that lady who had the idea to start up this great initiative. Themba, they call you a champion. Talk to us about what does that mean? What is being a champion, particularly at U-Turn?
So being a champion at U-Turn, it means a lot, you know, because U-Turn has provided a lot for me, because they found me at a rehab, you know, and they provided a job for me, and they provided skills for me. And a lot has been happening at U-Turn. I started a store from scratch, hands-on with U-Turn. And yeah, I've acquired a lot of skills since I've been at U-Turn, things that I've never thought that I would have while I was living on the streets.
Let's talk about that, Themba. What actually led you? What circumstances led you to be on the streets and being homeless?
Thank you for asking that question. Particularly, like when you talk about people living on the street, there's that stigma that maybe you did something wrong.
Yes.
Maybe you were brought up in a particular manner, or you've been harmed at home. Myself, I would like to put this to be clear that I was never raised badly at home. It's just that I made bad choices on my own, never realizing what they would lead to. So by the time I realized the damage was huge, the debt that I recognized when I couldn't go back home, it was huge. So I cannot say it was someone's choices that I made, unconsciously knowing that they would lead to me being addicted to drugs and stuff like that.
Thank you for acknowledging that, Themba. You know, I want Lindley to talk to us to this, because we always have this misconception that a lot of people that are on the streets is due to, I suppose you have one focus reason as to why they might be on the streets. But there's a myriad of reasons, right, Lindley, from, you know, being child-headed households, coming from child-headed households, having nobody to assist you in your plight. So let's talk about what actually leads some other people besides what Themba is given as a reason to being homeless.
Thank you. There's, like you said, there's so many reasons. Homelessness is so complex. We think it's this homogenous thing that all homeless people are the same. They're all substance use
They make
users.
bad decisions in life.
They make bad decisions. They are criminals, and that's why they ended up where they are. But there are a million reasons why people can end up on the streets. And it's usually because there are no support systems anymore. They have broken down relationships. They have no one to support them. They have no one to catch them when they fall, and they end up on the streets. Some people end up on the streets because they find work in the city, but they live in a rural community or far away, and it's too expensive to travel. And there's no access to affordable accommodation in the city, so they end up sleeping on the streets. People may have come here from other countries looking for opportunities in the city of gold.
Yes.
And then they get to Joburg and they are robbed of their documents, and there's no system to help them recover those documents, and they become homeless. So there are many, many other ways into homelessness. You know, it could be economic, it could be situational, it could be families. They just grow so big that there's no more space in the house to accommodate everybody, and they need to, some of the family members need to go out there and fend for themselves. So there are many complicated reasons why people end up homeless. Something that we rarely ever speak about is mental health disorders. People just struggling with their mental health ending up on the streets, you know, and whether that is through substances or whether it's genetic, but they don't get the help that they need, and then they are cast out and they end up on the street. So yeah, very complicated.
Very complicated indeed. We're going to talk about those systems in a moment, Lindley. I just want to hear from Themba. Themba, did you get any assistance from your family when you got addicted? How was your journey, you know, making it all the way through to being identified by U-Turn? Talk to us about that experience.
So addiction is a very broad issue, you know, because you isolate yourself from your family, you neglect your family, because somehow there's this conscious thing that tells you that you're doing a wrong thing. So you don't want to be told, you don't want any help.
But you can't stop.
You want to stop, but you don't know how now. Now you don't know any system. The only thing you know is that you have to get your next fix, and how you get it, it doesn't matter. That's the only thing that keeps you going.
So how did you come about and you know, be identified by U-Turn? How did you acquire their services?
So that journey started when I was in a rehab in Krugersdorp. While I was at that rehab, I opted to go to a halfway house to prolong my recovery, because I was not strong enough to acknowledge when I was weak, and I knew that. So when I was in rehab, it was a 6 weeks program, and I had been to a rehab before. So this time, on the second time when I went to a rehab, I felt like 6 weeks was just too little for me. I needed more support, you know, because what they did at the first time was only detox. So when I opted to go to Wedge Gardens, where I can prolong my recovery, that's when I was told and introduced to U-Turn. That's when I joined U-Turn.
Very interesting indeed. So you've got quite a lot of these stories, I suppose, Lindley, where people either walk in or you identify them on the streets. Talk to us about how some, in fact, the bulk of some of your beneficiaries are actually identified. Do you specifically go to those areas where you know there could be the homeless, for example, under bridges and uninhabited buildings?
That's a very interesting question, because we have what we work on, mainly what we call a pull factor.
Okay.
So people accessing our services, that go and spread the word about the services that are available.
Word of mouth, so to speak.
Word of mouth. And we've got an amazing voucher system that we've had for the past 15 years as U-Turn, partners with Mold Empower Serve, MES, and created the My Change voucher system, which is a way for community members to give responsibly.
Oh, wow.
So instead of giving money at the robot, you give a voucher. That voucher leads someone to what we call a service center, where they can access basic needs services by exchanging that voucher for a service, whether food, clothing, ablutions, in some cases even a place to sleep.
Oh, wow.
And then that's the introduction to the U-Turn pathway out of homelessness. And then we start engaging with them. And then because of the services that are provided, a lot of our beneficiaries go out and they tell others and say, look, you know, they say, you know, it's just one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread.
Yes.
You know, and then they come to the centers. But we also do outreach. There is an outreach element.
Let's talk about some of the other programs that you do have, Lindley, because I understand you have quite a few.
Yeah. So we have what we call, like I said, our service centers that provides basic needs services, food, clothing,
Where are these
ablutions.
stations, Lindley?
So we've got in Joburg currently, we've got 2 in Northcliffe at an organization called Tsepo Community Development Initiative, and at Christchurch, Blegauri.
Okay.
In Blegauri. And we are busy looking into the new year, opening 2 additional service centers in Joburg, in Braamfontein and in the Linden area, and with plans to grow from there. And with these services, it's not only the handout, it's not only the food, but it's also the engagement with the therapeutic team. So people get to speak to a social worker, speak to people like Themba, who has lived experience and can be a testament to the power of the program. And they also then are referred to rehabilitation, to accommodation, and when they have gone through that rehabilitation process, they are referred to the work readiness program. So we also have social enterprises. We currently have 3 stores in Joburg. We've got one in Melville, one on Bayers Nordia near Cresta, and one in Northcliffe as well. And that's where Themba and his colleagues, his fellow champions, work during the week and develop their skills.
I mean, this is quite interesting, Lindley, because, I mean, with these programs, Themba was talking about the fact that he's got a job, you assisted him getting a job, and you re-skilled him, and you are still upskilling him. So you've got quite a lot of collaboration with other entities as well that ensure that whatever change you bring about your champions is actually a sustainable one.
Exactly that. We try to make sure that when people leave homelessness, they never come back. So we work in collaboration with other organizations like MES, the Johannesburg Homeless Network, with Josie Majosi. We work with a lot of entities and stakeholders in the sector to ensure that we upskill our champions, because they are champions. They have overcome so much.
Absolutely.
They have won so many battles that they truly are champions in our eyes, that when they graduate from the program, we want to be sure that they are stable to never come back to homelessness.
Themba, talk to us about your journey now from being identified with U-Turn to getting a job and, being able to sustain yourself and where you are now.
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey, I never thought that one day I would overcome so much in my life. Cause
are you back in contact with your family?
Actually, I live at home now.
Oh, wow.
With my family.
Okay.
And
are they supportive?
Definitely. And I'm looking forward to Christmas with family again. Because it will be my first Christmas with family this time around.
Themba, how was Christmas on the streets, being homeless?
Wow. Being homeless, Christmas, you get the front row seat to recognize how crucial and critical family is. Because that influence and that fever, it's surrounding you. When you always try to hustle, you see fathers, brothers, and daughter, they are all together, and you are all alone there. And then you start feeling that there is something wrong with you, because you feel judged. So much is happening, and everything that's surrounding you, it's all about family, presents, like everyone is happy, vacations, and you're just sitting there at that corner, and you're feeling embarrassed, man.
Talk to us about that. I mean, Lindley, anybody who's experiencing this time on the streets, issues like health worries, for instance, I'm wondering, how do they deal with such instances, issues of depression as well, and mental issues as well? How do they even start to identify where to go?
It's very difficult, to be honest. The way that services are provided to communities really exclude marginalized communities like the homeless.
I was just thinking about police stations, because I wanted to talk about the fact that there is a GBV one that provides special care specifically for the homeless people. So maybe talk to us about that, because I suppose police stations will not have a dedicated homeless person's report desk, or even try and assist that person, particularly because you don't have a proof of address. Therefore, they cannot give you a case number if you don't have an address.
Exactly that. Many of our beneficiaries, unfortunately, every interaction they have with law enforcement is a negative one. So there's distrust on both sides of the river, When homeless people typically see police officers, they see, we're going to get beaten, we're going to be taken to jail, our stuff are going to be repossessed, they're going to move us from where our economic activity is to places where we have no connection to that community. And oftentimes the reason why communities have such a negative response to homeless people is because they are forced into those communities and they are completely disconnected from those communities. So yeah, even with law enforcement, there's no sense of I have the confidence to go into a police station and report when even something has happened to me, especially as women. If I have perhaps been sexually assaulted, for instance, I don't have the confidence to go into that police station for a myriad of reasons. Like I said, because I've never had a good interaction with, a positive interaction with law enforcement. I might be smelling because I've not had a bath in several days. So the way people already receive me is a challenge. And the same goes for the health department. When I have a mental health disorder, say schizophrenia or bipolar, and I need to go and get my medication, I'm forced to stand in the queue in my state that I'm in.
I'm just thinking, one that has diabetes or HIV that has to now go to the clinics, like it must be quite a hard task. Themba, how did you deal with such issues? Were you ever sick on the streets, and how did you get that assistance?
Well, you know, dealing with the addiction that I had, I think it sustained a lot of things that could have gone wrong in my health, because I only went like twice to hospital because of injuries, not of another health issue that I had. I think it was due to the type of DOC, my drug of choice that I was using. So I didn't go to hospital that much.
So you were lucky enough to not have any health conditions that needed you to seek medical assistance. So in closing, Lindley, let's talk about this. It's festive season. Where can those that require your assistance come and knock at your door? What type of services will you be assisting during this festive period?
It is a difficult time for people living on the street, as Themba so beautifully put. It's the time when homeless people feel the most isolated. They see other families celebrating the joy, and they feel that loneliness. And people are also more generous during this time of the year typically, and they want to give. And we encourage people to go to our website, homeless.org.za. We have a campaign called Bring the Light campaign.
Wow.
So that community members can be that light, that hope for people living on the street, to not only provide them with temporary relief like a meal or an item of clothing, a blanket, but to actually help them get off the streets and onto their feet again. And our service centers are available for them to also go, and we always have, each of our centers always has a Christmas meal for people living on the street so that they can share in the joy that the rest of the country is enjoying.
Lindley, you guys are doing great and amazing work. Continue with that goodwill. Thank you so much. Themba, we are very happy to have you in studio with us, encouraging those, your final words of encouragement for those who find themselves still living on the streets, very quickly.
So one thing that I would say, people must ask information. There are organizations like U10 who can put you where you don't think you would be in life. And the only thing that you should have is hope. Hope is the fuel of life, man.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing hope to studio, and for those that are watching at home, thank you so much. That is Mr. Lindley April, the operation manager at U-Turn here in Gauteng, alongside a champion, U-Turn champion Themba Mbuli, gracing us with their presence and sharing some hope, and also spreading some of that love to those that might find themselves in similar situations. As you've heard it right here on SABC News, go to U-Turn, you will be sorted out.